Cardiovascular disease is the number one cause for death and disability in the world. We know that hypertension or high blood pressure results in an increased risk of cardiovascular events. And we know that stress also increases our blood pressure and risk for cardiovascular events. So in today's video, what we are going to be going through is two specific modalities in order to reduce stress and reduce blood pressure. Those two are aerobic exercise or cardiovascular fitness. And number two is mindfulness meditation or breath work. And we'll find out which of those two subsets is actually better for reducing stress. To start with, we're going to be going through the aerobic exercise component, and it's a pretty quick study, but it's labeled the effect of acute aerobic exercise on stress-related blood pressure responses, a systematic review and meta-analysis. Now, what they found with this is that a minimal effective dose of 30 minutes at a VO2 max of 50% was effective for reducing blood pressure. Now, interestingly, they also mentioned that there is a dose-dependent relationship with the more aerobic exercise you do, the more reductions in blood pressure you get. And specifically, they stated studies involving greater exercise doses tended to show larger effects. So pretty self-explanatory. The more you do, the more aerobic exercise you do, the better effect it has on reducing blood pressure. Now, 50% of your VO2 max is actually quite a low intensity. At that level, you will be able to walk next to somebody, say it's a friend, and you go out for a 30-minute walk. You'll be able to hold a conversation. It's not too difficult. In fact, you'll probably be going slightly faster than a walk, depending on your fitness level, maybe a light jog, but you'll still be able to string full sentences together as you're going out for that 30-minute exercise bout. So that's what they said in regards to increasing your aerobic efficiency and reducing your blood pressure. Now, I read another study which was talking about the amount of people with high blood pressure in the UK, and 31% of men and 28% of women have high blood pressure in the UK. Now, that's a high amount, and we can probably understand from those statistics why heart disease is such a big issue, with high blood pressure playing a key role in heart disease. So yeah, aerobic exercise, really, really good at reducing blood pressure. However, there is a dose-dependent relationship with the more we do, the better the outcome that we have. To be statistically significant, we need a 10 systolic reduction and a 5 diastolic reduction. So say, for example, your blood pressure is normally 140 on 90. We would need to see that 130 on 85 to be what we classify as clinically significant. And so what the study found, the one that I was talking about, where they said that 31% of men and 28% of women have high blood pressure, we need a significant difference of 10 on the systolic and 5 on the diastolic. What they found with their study was that in their exercise intervention, they reduced it by 5 on the systolic and 3 on the diastolic, which wasn't clinically significant. I think it would be interesting to put people into a protocol where they were doing a sufficient amount of aerobic exercise to be able to see maybe a larger reduction in blood pressure for that particular intervention. So yeah, that in regards to aerobic exercise. is really important to sort of look over to be able to see how much of a reduction we can get in that blood pressure and reducing our risk for cardiovascular events. The second study that we're going to be going through is titled Brief Structured Respiration Practices Enhance Mood and Reduce Physiological Arousal. Now, this is a study that I saw mentioned by Andrew Huberman, and I wanted to go over it and sort of see what the information was and what they found in their research article. So firstly, we'll just go over sort of some key things that they went through in the actual study, or some key summary points. And basically, they sectioned people into 4 groups. There was a physiological sighing. So that included a technique where they basically do this inhale and then inhale again at the very top and then breathe out for 2 seconds. So it looks something like this, where they go like that. And then they had another group in a box breathing group where essentially they breathe in for 1 second, hold for 1 second, breathe out for 1 second, hold for 1 second, and they keep going around in what's called like a box scenario. The other one was cyclic hyperventilation, or otherwise known as Wim Hof breathing. And basically that's where you breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, in quick succession. And then you hold at the end of your repetitions, which in this point was 30 breaths for 15 seconds. So it's like you'll do that for 30 seconds or 30 repetitions, and then hold for 15 seconds at the end of that 30 breath count. The other group that they put into was mindfulness meditation, and that was just paying attention to your breath without any particular amount of seconds that you were doing in regards to in and out. You were just paying attention to the in breath, paying attention to the out breath, and just trying to be more mindful of your breath in that instance. So they were the 4 groups. Basically what they found, so they measured amongst a couple different factors. It was positive effect, and that was particularly mood, so mood enhancing effects. And the other one that I wanted to go through was reducing anxiety, which obviously if you reduce anxiety, reduces stress. So they're the outcomes that we're going to be going through with this study. The positive effect, so basically what they found with the mindfulness meditation, it was a 1.22 times improvement in mood. With the cyclic sighing, so the one where they breathe in again, and then breathe out, they found a 1.89 times improvement in mood. And then with box breathing, they found a 1.84 times improvement in mood. And then cyclic hyperventilation, they found a 1.97 times improvement in mood. I would hazard a guess that the cyclic hyperventilation actually induces what we call norepinephrine or adrenaline. And this gives you an overall sense of arousal and improvement in overall well-being, just because it actually taps into that adrenaline pathway, which tends to make us feel revved up and ready to go and to tackle anything that might come in front of us. You know, going back to hunter-gatherer times, we would get elevation in adrenaline when we're trying to chase that or run away from the saber-toothed tiger. In this instance, we can get a rise in adrenaline just from simply walking outside and trying to avoid traffic. So yeah, that would be my guess as to why we saw probably the greatest increase in mood, particularly with that cyclic hyperventilation. With the anxiety component, what they found was that the state anxiety reduction with mindfulness meditation was a 3.95 times reduction. The cyclic sighing was a 3.85 times reduction. Box breathing, 3.75 reduction. And then cyclic hyperventilation was a 1.8 times reduction. So overall, mindfulness meditation, cyclic sighing, and box breathing really, really similar with reducing anxiety. And then cyclic hyperventilation, the one where you breathe in and out really fast, not surprisingly, not as good at reducing anxiety. In fact, for some people, that may induce anxiety. I don't know if you've ever seen an anxiety attack from somebody where their breath pattern gets really short and narrow and really fast. So that sort of simulates that, and that would explain why that it probably just didn't improve it as much as what we would normally see with the other interventions. So now, interestingly, they also stated that the number of days adhered resulted in better results. So unsurprisingly, over the month period that this study was, the more days that the participant participated in, the better the results they got. And they found this effect particularly potent and clinically significant in the cyclic sighing group. So the ones where they like that. So your basically the analysis for a positive effect was the best in that cyclic sighing group. So the best impact on lowered respiratory rate and improved mood. So a lowered respiratory rate generally means that the central nervous system has calmed down and you're not in what's called the sympathetic nervous system state. You would be more in your parasympathetic nervous state. So that would be what we would classically define as the rest and digest. So what we can sort of see from that is that the cyclic sighing was actually the best overall. And that is something that Dr. Andrew Huberman has often recommended in some of his podcasts, if you listen to any of them. And so, yeah, I suppose it is interesting to see that, you know, even including mindfulness meditation, which gets a lot of press, is not necessarily the best for improving mood. However, it is quite good for reducing anxiety, which is often suffered from sort of health condition, especially these days where our stress levels are chronically elevated due to constantly being connected via social media. You know, our emails going off, we're at work, we're dealing with things that are going on a regular basis. If we compare modern day lifestyle to 200 years ago, 300 years ago, you know, we just didn't have to deal with chronically elevated stress levels all the time. Yes, we have much better living conditions now, you know, but we didn't have that constant communication between social media and emails and expectations of people around us and avoiding traffic on the roads. You know, it was a lot slower paced back 200 years ago. So we had periods of rest, whereas now, what do you do when you get home? You flick on the phone, scroll through Instagram, you look at everyone's highlight reel, you know, you respond to messages, you Snapchats, everything that you've missed throughout the day because you've been working and dealing with the stress at work. So what I'm trying to say is we need to wind down, and mindfulness and cyclic sighing, any breath work is going to help to reduce that stress response that we get, the cortisol rise. One thing that is often talked about is trying to get exercise done in the morning when cortisol peaks, so that we can get that drop off in cortisol and feel relatively relaxed throughout the day. So that's another takeaway that we can sort of utilize in order to reduce stress reduce the amount of, I suppose, overall well-being issues that we face in modern day times. So yeah, really we've got two key takeaways. Aerobic exercise, really good at reducing blood pressure. And then we've got breath work and mindfulness meditation at reducing stress levels, particularly as well as cortisol. Just some highlights with that last study. So basically they've given a nice summary at the top of the research article here, and it's that daily 5-minute breathwork and mindfulness meditation improve mood and reduce anxiety. Key takeaway: breathwork improves mood and physiological arousal more than mindfulness meditation. Cyclic sighing is most effective at improving mood and reducing respiratory rate. So they're the three key takeaways at the top of the study. I forgot to mention at the start, each of those group performed 5 minutes of either the breath work or the meditation. And they were supposed to adhere to the program every day, but I believe one of the groups was 17 days over the month, and the other group was 15 days over the month. I could be slightly wrong on that, but I believe that's what the numbers were. We'll post the link to this study so that you can look at it yourself and take away anything that you want. But those were the key takeaways that I got from reading it. So that concludes the video for today. If you have any questions, feel free to fire away in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you really like what we're doing, comment on the video what you would like to see next, what you would like to see improve for the video. We're open to any feedback that we get. And we'll see you in the next one.